Chapter 1002. Xiao Jin exclaimed, "What the? You said it so seriously I even believed you." Long Yunzhan's gaze looked at the surroundings indifferently as he spoke calmly. "In the vast sea of sand, we can only keep moving forward to find the exit to the next round. This time you're too rash." No one knew what would happen in the next second in this sea of sand. They could only move forward to ensure their safety. But their rhythm was disrupted by those low profound class and intermediate profound class students. Yiqing Luo lowered her head to look at the golden sand on the ground as she stepped on it and sank deep into it. The golden sand groped for their shoes as it gave off a rustling sound. Along the way, they saw numerous students being swallowed by the golden sand into white bones due to their greed towards the golden sand, failing the assessment. Immediately, Yiqing Luo's mind cleared up as she seemed to have thought of something as she muttered to herself for a moment. "I think the exit isn't in the surroundings but under our feet." Everyone stopped in their tracks as they lowered their heads to look at the dazzling golden sand. "The exit that we're looking for is right under this golden sand which corrodes human flesh. If I didn't guess wrongly, this should be an illusion zone. Coupled with an illusory space which is constructed by an array which hooks people's evil thoughts. No matter how far we walk, we're actually going in circles on the same spot." Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. Ever since they entered, she had an extremely strange feeling. That was a kind of estrangement feeling, as though the entire world and her were estranged. But strictly speaking, this estrangement was started by her. This was a human's sense of self-protection towards danger. The stronger the person, the stronger their sense of perception. But there was some overstatement in this. Just like a woman's intuition, some people, even if they weren't strong, their intuition was very strong. Yiqing Luo's sense of perception had always been several times higher than ordinary people. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up as she looked at Long Yunzhan. "Ah Zhan, carefully sense it, do you have a strange feeling?" Long Yunzhan nodded as his azure blue eyes closed slightly. His profound heart jade slowly released its profound qi as it communicated with heaven and earth. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and a ray of light flashed past his eyes as he said, "Sense of isolation." Tong Ziqing also followed suit as she shut her eyes. After sensing for some time, she opened her eyes as her cold eyes swept past them. "Sense of isolation? What sense of isolation? Why can't I feel it?" Xiao Jin also quickly opened his eyes and nodded. "That's right. Now that you've mentioned it, I've also felt a strange feeling. It's just that my feeling is rather weak. If I don't take the initiative to investigate, I think I wouldn't be able to feel it. It seems that this kind of feeling can only be felt by people above the earth profound realm." Long Yunzhan's expression was solemn. "There are many people above the earth profound realm here. I think someone will notice us very soon. We have to be one step ahead of them." "That's right. We must be one step ahead of the others and get first place. But how are we going to break the formation?" Anai Rupan nodded in agreement. Yiqing Luo stretched her waist. "Now that we know where the exit is, isn't it easy to break the array? Just break it." The biggest weakness of the Golden Desert was this sense of isolation. As long as he focused his attention on the sense of isolation, he would definitely be able to break through the formation and enter the next stage. "Zhan Jingzi, the only ones above Earth Xian are the three of us," Yiqing Luo arranged. "We'll first use Earth Profound Grade Profound Qi to sense the entrance of the isolation point. As long as we sever this link, we'll be able to sever this array." Chapter 1003. The sense of isolation came from the golden desert beneath her feet. The connection point must be somewhere beneath her feet. But where on earth was it? Yiqing Luo's perception was at its strongest as she stared at the desert beneath her feet. Suddenly, her mind recalled what Anai Ruopan said. The unmoving sun above her head. Right. The sun. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes abruptly as she used her hand to block her eyes as she gazed at that glaring sun. The entire golden desert, other than the ground filled with gold, there was only this sun in the sky, which was something created by the heavenly pagoda. This sun must be the crucial method to break the array. The sun gave off a scorching and glaring light, so piercing that Yiqing Luo shut her eyes. Half squinting her eyes, she stared at the sun for a long time. Indeed, she discovered something strange. There seemed to be shadows in the sun. Many shadows. As she looked at it clearer, those shadows started to overlap. There were only 10 shadows left. Those 10 people. wasn't it? The Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as she quickly reacted. In the sun were the shadows of all the students from the participating classes. So when she looked at the sun and examined the reflection of the sun, it would reflect the shadows of the 10 of them. Which meant to say, the source of the sense of isolation was the sun. Right, she now felt. This sense of isolation as though they were separated into another world. This world was the sun. The sun is the connection point of the separation. Yiqing Luo's words had just ended when Qiao Jin and Long Yunzhan flew up. Their figures speedily dashed towards the direction of the sun. The profound qi in their hands swiftly split that sun into pieces. When the two of them stood steadily on the ground, the entire golden desert was suddenly filled with a thin fog. There was no trace or outline of anything in the surroundings. Their first round evil thoughts and greed had passed. By the time the surrounding white fog dispersed, Yiqing Luo and the rest then discovered that the group of them were in a dark and spacious underground palace. That's right. The space had changed into another one, which was the second round. When they surveyed their surroundings, a sliver of astonishment flashed past their eyes. This underground palace was built with huge blue stones and the ground was covered with moss. The space here was huge and those students who were forced to enter the Golden Desert were all standing here like terracotta soldiers. However, these students all had different expressions. Some people's faces were calm while others were deathly pale. Some people's eyelids twitched as if they were about to wake up, while others' foreheads were dripping with cold sweat. What kind of space did the heavenly pagoda create? Qiao Jin stared at those students, a trace of ruthlessness flashing across his eyes. Are we going to make a move now? To be honest, after entering the heavenly pagoda, Qiao Jin's emotions had been on the verge of exploding. Thus, in the Golden Desert he was corroded by evil thoughts and wanted to take away the golden sand. Ever since he had forcefully kissed Xianxia that day, he had been thinking about that kiss and the hug that day. The more he thought about it, the more confused he became. The more chaotic it was, the more he wanted to escape. The emotions that had accumulated in the bottom of his heart were ready to be unleashed. He really wanted to have a good fight to vent the emotions in his heart. Yiqing Luo squinted at him as her palm placed on his shoulder. A surge of dark force overflowed from his palm. This surge of profound energy was like a clear spring, flowing into Qiao Jin's heart. Chapter 1004. The few of them nodded when they heard that. The 10 of them carefully bypassed those people and came to a huge door. There were 2 candles on both sides of the door. There were 2 arm-thick candles on the candles. These 2 candles weren't burning with ordinary flames, but a dark green flame like ghost fire, illuminating the door with a faint green glow. As for the 2 doors, they were covered in red paint. The door was 6 to 7 meters high and above the door were 2 golden lion titles hanging with a golden ring. Looking up there was a plaque. On the huge plaque there were golden words, Gates of Hell. And Ruopan's eyes widened. Gates of Hell? It's recorded in the books that the Gates of Hell is the door to the netherworld and only dead people can enter. Moreover, the miasma grows and there are many mosquitoes, rats and ants. In the night, it's shrouded by a white fog and the birds are wailing. It's terrifying. Speaking of this, Ruopan shuddered. Tong Ziqing's cold eyes swept past that strange door as she frowned. Don't tell me we're dead? Yiqing Luo shook her head. Impossible. Even if someone has the intention to kill us, those masters and elders outside the heavenly pagoda will absolutely not sit idly by. She walked up and tried to push the door. But the door didn't budge. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she tried to pull the door, but it still didn't budge. She didn't know what material this door was made of. It seemed as heavy as 1,000 caddies and no matter how much strength she used she couldn't open it. Ruopan, did the book say how to open the gates of hell? Yiqing Luo gave up and turned her head to look at Ruopan. Ruopan pondered for a moment and said according to her memory, it said that the gates of hell can only be opened by ghosts. We're finished. Aren't we going to die? Qiao Jin's expression changed drastically. Shut up. Baiming Lulu rolled her eyes at Qiao Jin as she thought of her best friend, who was getting depressed because of him. Her heart was filled with unspeakable anger. Although Yan Shaoyi didn't show any extra emotions on the surface. The injuries on her, the poison had all been cured. But Baiming Lulu could tell. Yan Xiaoyi's heart was hurt. As for her, as the descendant of the divine doctor family, she could cure all kinds of complicated illnesses. But it could not cure the heart disease. Thinking of this, Baiming Lulu's tone became more and more unfriendly. Don't talk so much, don't disturb Ruo Pan. Once he finished speaking, he pushed Yangming away and moved closer to Enai Rupan. Rupan, go on. Enai Rupan looked at Xiao Jin awkwardly. Under Baiming Lulu's gaze, he continued. The books mention that people have 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls. After death, the 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls enter the gates of hell. Only the 3 insects in the human body, also known as the 3 corpses, will roam the human world. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up when she heard that. I understand now. The 3 worms were also known as Ju, Bai, and Bai, representing greed, anger, and obsession respectively. In other words, as long as we don't have any desires or thoughts, we can pass through the gates of hell. Xiao Jin walked over. Let me try. With that, he closed his eyes and put his palms together like an old monk in meditation. After a while, he opened his eyes and walked toward the red door. His eyes were calm and unperturbed. Bang! It hit the door. Xiao Jin pinched his nose. It doesn't work. Devil Class's students. Enai Rupan suddenly pointed to the 2 sides of the door as he cried out in surprise, Quick, look! There are words. Above the faint green candle flame, the smoke curled up into the air and gradually converged into 2 lines of words. A line on the left and right. Chapter 1005. Xiao Jin's brows rose as his pupils reflected a green glow under the candlelight. He propped his chin as he stared at those 2 lines of words with interest. Interesting. What do you think, should I buckle the left one or the right one, or after the left one buckle the right one, or after the right one buckle the left one, or both at the same time? The other 9 people looked at him as though they were looking at an idiot. Xiao Jin didn't understand what was going on as he rubbed the back of his head and was about to open his mouth. Shut up. Baiming Lulu berated in a low voice as she stopped Xiao Jin. Yiqing Luo walked to the door as she raised her slender hand to fiddle with that golden hoop. But when the golden hoop was in her hand, it was as heavy as 1,000 catties and not easy to move. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as both her hands held onto the golden hoop. A burst of profound qi broke out from her body as she borrowed the power of her profound qi to lift the golden hoop. But unexpectedly, this lift, both sides of the golden hoop were lifted at the same time. Immediately following that, the golden hoop landed heavily on the big red door. Only to hear a dang sound. As though the ancient temple's huge bell had been rung, it shook Yiqing Luo's hands till they went numb. The dang sound reverberated in the entire space. When it ended, Yiqing Luo's hands were still trembling slightly. This knock on the door, although it didn't open that door, but it wasn't totally useless. At least, that group of people who had fallen into the illusion were jolted awake. The moment they regained consciousness, they gave out terrified cries from their mouths. Each of them were panting heavily as though they had experienced immense pain. After they regained consciousness, they realized that they were still in the dark underground palace and had not experienced what they had imagined, so they all heaved a sigh of relief. Following that, they saw the 10 people standing not too far away from them. Shangguan Liuli was the first to change her expression. She wiped off the cold sweat on her forehead as what she had experienced in the illusion made her extremely terrified. When she saw Yiqing Luo and the others, it was as though she had seen an outlet to vent her anger. She dashed forward as she roared furiously, "Is it you guys? Did you guys intentionally bring us here to let us experience that kind of thing?" The other class's students all looked towards Yiqing Luo and the others. When they discovered that Yiqing Luo and the others were still in the same group, their expressions changed slightly. The trash of the devil class had actually passed the first round of assessment. Furthermore, he wasn't affected by the illusions like they were. How could this be? Unless they were affected by the illusion and it was Yiqing Luo's doing. Thinking of this, the students from the other classes started to stare angrily at Yiqing Luo, as though they wanted to settle scores with her. Yiqing Luo withdrew her numb and trembling hands and placed them behind her back. Not far away, he glanced at the students from the various classes who were rushing over. Immediately, the corner of his mouth hooked up into a mocking sneer. With this IQ of yours, how dare you claim to be students of the Heavenly Academy? What a disgrace to the Heavenly Academy. Not only was Shangguan Liuli furious, but the other students were also furious. He was scolding all of them. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. Are you not stupid? Think about it carefully. What kind of space are we in right now? High profound class students were the first to react. After Yiqing Luo's reminder, he immediately stared at Shangguan Liuli. They were all criticizing this meddlesome woman. Chapter 1006. They were now in the Heavenly Academy's Heavenly Pagoda. The space here was created by the elders and the 4 masters of the pagoda. Everything that happened here was controlled by the 4 great masters. No matter how capable Yiqing Luo was, she couldn't possibly do anything to them in the Heavenly Pagoda. Which meant the illusion that they had experienced earlier was a test of their abilities. They were trapped in the illusion and couldn't get out. It was Yiqing Luo who woke them up. Shangguan Liuli's brain naturally couldn't understand this matter. Hearing the high profound class's reprimand, her face turned gloomy. When did I deliberately provoke you? I'm telling the truth. We were all trapped in the illusion, only they weren't. Luli, shut up. In the high profound class too, Shangguan Fangyi walked out and berated Shangguan Luli. Third brother. Shangguan Luli's eyes widened. You're still speaking up for that slut? Don't you know that she was the one who hurt you a few days ago? Shangguan Fangyi's face sunk as he felt helpless towards his sister's blabbermouth. He walked over and covered Shangguan Luli's mouth. Be quiet, don't let the other students see the Shangguan family as a joke. Shangguan Luli struggled, although she was angry, but at least she kept her mouth shut. Intermediate Profound Class 2's monitor, Xie Yan, slowly walked towards Yiqing Luo. Student Yi, I didn't expect to meet you in the second round. Meeting Yiqing Luo wasn't strange at all. What was strange was that the other 9 people in Devil Class were all standing there safe and sound. Xie Yan narrowed his eyes and suddenly understood why Yi Fengru asked him to find an opportunity to ask Yiqing Luo to take part in the inter-class competition. This Yiqing Luo. But a mysterious existence that couldn't be seen through. There were too many surprises hidden on her, too many miracles. Such a mysterious and powerful existence was willing to stay in the Devil Class, which was known as Waste Class. If it wasn't for the attraction of the Devil Class, why would Yiqing Luo refuse to enter the class of gods and stubbornly stay in the Devil Class? Wherever Yiqing Luo was, he believed that everything would be extraordinary. These people from Devil Class, I'm afraid. They are not ordinary. There are many unexpected things. Class monitor Xia, let's wait and see. Yiqing Luo calmly met his gaze. Xie Yan smiled meaningfully and returned to his seat in Intermediate Profound Class 2. Xie Yan's prestige in the academy was also quite high. Seeing Xie Yan and Yiqing Luo being so courteous, the other students naturally kept quiet. At the end of the high profound class, Lu Shuiyu and Lu Shuelon were wiping the sweat on their foreheads with eyes full of doubt. Why? Yiqing Luo and the others weren't affected by the mirage. Both classes from the high profound class were sucked into this space. In an instant he was caught in an illusion and did not even have the chance to resist. What was going on? Looking at these students' expressions, Yiqing Luo and the others linked it to the explanation from the gates of hell and roughly understood the reason. If he wanted to enter the gates of hell, he had to remove the 3 corpses. The second test was to test the capricious greed, anger, and infatuation. Because of this, after these students entered the second round, they were caught in the 3 corpses mirage test. As for them, it was possible that compared to the other students, the greed, anger, and infatuation in their hearts weren't as strong. Because of this, they were able to walk to the gates of hell safely. Chapter 1007. Now is not the time to discuss other things, let's think of a way to leave this place. Lu Xiaoyu's voice was heard from the crowd. This place is too eerie, perhaps we might be corroded by the illusion again. Mentioning the illusion, everyone's heart trembled. The feeling in the illusion earlier was still lingering in their hearts. It made them have a lingering fear. The students who were at loggerheads immediately quietened down. The sharp-eyed students discovered that there was a red wooden door behind Yiqing Luo and the rest. After giving a loud cry, they took the lead and ran towards the direction of the gates of hell. When the other students heard that, they naturally didn't want to be left behind. Totally disregarding the strange candle flame on the red wooden door, they only wanted to be the first to pass this round and be the first to get first place. Lu Xiaoyu still wanted to talk to Yi Qing Luo, but was forcefully dragged by her classmates as they ran towards the gates of hell. Yi Qing Luo and the rest shifted their position and didn't stop them, allowing them to rush towards the gates of hell. In just a short while, thousands of students had crowded the entire red wooden door. Yi Qing Luo and the rest were all squeezed to a corner. The student who rushed at the front stretched out his hand and grabbed the golden hoop as he pulled it hard. Only to hear a creak sound, the huge red wooden door slowly opened. What? Just based on them they can open the gates of hell? Xiao Jin stared in disbelief at the gates of hell which was slowly opening, revealing a glaring white light. He rubbed his eyes fiercely and secretly lifted the black veil on his face to take a look at that door. It had indeed been opened. The one who couldn't calm down the most was Yi Qing Luo. Wasn't it said that only those who had no desires could open the gates of hell? Her hands were still trembling from the shock of the golden hoop. That intermediate profound class student easily opened it. If that student who opened the gates of hell really had no desires, then he wouldn't be the first to rush to the front. She might have just opened a fake gates of hell. After the gates of hell were opened, numerous students were cheering, just as they were about to rush forward. But they saw a strong glaring white light shooting out from the open door. In a split second it swallowed the first row of students. In a split second it swallowed the entire student. Those cheering students' voices came to an abrupt halt. They watched in horror as the white light engulfed the students in front of them. After being covered by the white light, the person disappeared from this space. This was not the white light to enter the next checkpoint or to leave the upper profound pagoda. Instead it was a kind of man-eating light. The students immediately turned around. How fast had he rushed to the gates of hell? How fast could he run back now? However, even if they condensed their qi into their legs and sped up their escape, they would not be able to escape. However, he was still no match for the speed of the white light. Even for Yi Qing Luo, she hadn't even noticed it in time when she was enveloped by a stretch of white light. Outside the heavenly pagoda, a teacher was standing outside the pagoda, using his qi to amplify his voice as he explained what had happened inside the pagoda. Zhou Xian narrowed his long and narrow peach blossom eyes as he gazed deeply at the heavenly pagoda. When he heard about the devil class, the 10 students broke through the illusion of greed in the first round and successfully reached the second round. His eyes flashed. Then he heard the teacher say that all the students had been swallowed into the gates of hell. His brows furrowed slightly. Chapter 1008. Following that, the director pointed to the medical hall's doctors who were carrying the eliminated students away. These students only suffered from mental trauma. After resting for a day in the medical hall, they will be back to normal. Zhou Xian's brows rose slightly. His deep gaze was like a whirlpool as he looked straight at the director. That gaze sent a chill down the director's spine. But he saw Zhou Xian's lips curled up slightly as he gave an elegant smile. Why did director want to conduct a class ability assessment? And it seems to be testing the students' souls if they are clean. The two words soul made the director's white brows twitch. Although his face did not reveal any emotions. But Zhou Xian's sharp senses could sense that the director already had a kind of flustered from having his thoughts poked out. The director laughed dryly, because this time, devil class's students will be taking part. Supreme Mo teaches devil class, so he should understand devil class's aptitude. I suggested the ability assessment is also for devil class's sake. Facing the evaluators from the main courtyard. If the director wanted to obtain the best academy title, then he had to curry favor with Supreme Mo. He placed himself in the position of a good director who was wholeheartedly thinking for the students. This teacher indeed understands devil class's students' aptitude. Who else knew devil class's students' aptitude better than him? It's precisely because of devil class's students' aptitude and student Yi Qing Luo. In order to fight for her face, she had to drag devil class's students to take part in the inter-class competition. As the director spoke, he sighed helplessly. In the inter-class competition, although it's only a matter of time, but after all, swords have no eyes. In order to fight for a good ranking, these students will definitely give it their all. I'm afraid it will hurt Devil Class's students. Because of this, I followed the elder's suggestion to conduct an ability assessment. If Devil Class is able to pass the assessment, then I can rest assured. At least in the inter-class competition, Devil Class's students will not get into any big trouble. And if they don't pass the assessment, then that means my previous concerns are correct. Zhou Xian gently curled up his lips, indifferent as snow, elegant as the wind. I see I've troubled the director. It's the student's blessing to have such a considerate principal in the Heavenly Academy. Ha. Ha ha. The dean secretly wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and heaved a sigh of relief. Since I'm in this position, I must make an equal contribution. As long as the students can achieve something, even if I have to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of flames, I'll do it. Zhou Xian's serene eyes narrowed slightly, and his elegant smile revealed some incisiveness. However, upon closer inspection, there was only a bottomless whirlpool. After the white light was swallowed, what was left in front of Yiqing Luo was a dusky scene. The surroundings were quiet. The thousands of students had already disappeared without a trace. Even Long Yunzhan and the others didn't hear any signs of them. She was the only one in the entire space. Yiqing Luo looked around for a moment. Then he understood. After the gates of hell opened, the white light sucked each of them into an independent space. She was the only one in this space. As he was looking around, the white light around him suddenly dissipated. A 15-story pagoda appeared in front of them. A familiar figure appeared in front of her. Chapter 1009. Old Man Tsang raised his illusory palm and rubbed her head. Lass, you have to do your best in the 15th floor of the Purgatory Tower. Once you succeed, you will obtain all the secret arts of the 15th floor. It will definitely allow you to reach the peak of the strong. No one can compare to you. Yiqing Luo was stunned. She hadn't had the time to attempt the 2nd floor. Why was it the 15th floor? Before she could think carefully, she was pushed by Old Man Tsang towards the Purgatory Tower. Lass, go ahead, I can't wait to see you stand at the peak. Yiqing Luo abruptly halted her footsteps, feeling that something was wrong. But just as she was about to think carefully, her brain felt a throbbing pain. It was as if something was forcing her, preventing her from thinking deeply about other things. What are you still hesitating for? As long as you break through the 15th floor, not to mention Zhou Xian, even in the upper realm, you will be unimpeded. Old Man Tsang advised earnestly as he pushed her forward. Zhou Xian. These 3 words made Yiqing Luo's brain suddenly clear up. Her eyes lit up and directly stretched out her hand, pressing on the hand on her shoulder. It was extremely cold to the touch. It made Yiqing Luo's mind become clearer. She lowered her voice with some coldness. Old Man Tsang, if I force my way through the 15th floor, will I be completely engulfed by it? How could that be? Old Man Tsang immediately shook his head. Why would I lie to you? With your strength, you can totally pass through the 15th floor of the Purgatory Tower. As long as you pass, what awaits you is the peak in heaven-defying power. Yiqing Luo increased the strength of her 5 fingers. She directly cut off Old Man Tsang's wrist, and immediately the glower flame fan in her hand had already slid towards his neck. Who are you? Yiqing Luo stared coldly at this person who looked extremely similar to Old Man Tsang. He was not Old Man Tsang. Absolutely not. Old Man Tsang would never say such certain words. Everything he does, he will only stand in my position and think for my sake. He will not bear to let any accidents happen to me. Yiqing Luo stared indifferently at the slightly pale face of Old Man Tsang. If you don't speak, this glower flame fan in my hand will not have eyes. Old Man Tsang sneered. That face of Old Man Tsang gradually transformed into another Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo, who looked exactly the same as her. Yiqing Luo had yet to finish her words. That Yiqing Luo, who looked exactly the same as her, gave an enchanting smile. In my heart, the most greedy and persistent thing is to become the strong, to step onto the peak of the strong, to have enough qualifications to stand by Ah Xian's side, to let everyone acknowledge the relationship between us. Just as she finished her words, Yiqing Luo's figure gradually turned into ashes under the hazy white light. What was going on? What did that old man Tsong and herself mean? Why did he say what she was obsessed with so clearly? Before she could think clearly, the white light in front of him dissipated again, and the scene in front of him turned into a joyous wedding hall. Qiao Jin and the rest stood behind her. Seeing Yi Qing Luo in a daze, he laughed. Qing Luo, don't put on a bitter face. Today is your master's big day. If your master sees your expression, he will blame you. Yi Qing Luo was stunned. Master? Qing Luo, are you feeling unwell? Yan Xiaoyi worriedly held onto Yi Qing Luo's arm. Her slender fingers wiped the cold sweat on her forehead. Yi Qing Luo was enlightened. Coincidentally, she heard a joyous shout from the door. The newlyweds have entered the hall. The newlyweds have entered the hall. Congratulations, newlyweds. Congratulations, newlyweds. Following that, she saw two figures dressed in red wedding robes walking into the hall. Chapter 10:10. The man's tall figure and the red robe he wore at his waist made his peerlessly handsome face seem even more incomparably handsome. The woman was dressed in a fiery phoenix robe, and she looked like a phoenix spreading its wings as she walked. That lady's face was covered by a red veil, but Yi Qing Luo was sure that she didn't know this lady. But she knew that man. Furthermore, it couldn't be any more ripe. Diamo Xian, he actually married another woman? Who was that woman? Yi Qing Luo's complexion was as pale as paper and her petite body was trembling slightly, making Long Yunzhan beside her worried. He held Yi Qing Luo's little hand as one arm gently wrapped around her shoulder. Qing Luo, what's the matter with you? Why are your hands so cold? With that, Long Yunzhan had already held her hands, placed them by his lips and breathed gently. Yi Qing Luo's hands trembled as she abruptly withdrew her hands. You, what are you doing? Long Yunzhan, who was pushed away, looked at her in confusion. His azure blue eyes were as clear as water, reflecting her pale face. Yi Qing Luo shook her hands, her mind in a daze. What was going on? Everything seemed to be developing in a strange direction. Why would Diamo Xian marry another woman? Why would Long Yunzhan do something that only lovers would do to her? On the other hand, Qiao Jin and the others felt that it was normal. Qing Luo. A deep voice was heard from the middle of the wedding hall. This voice belonged to Diamo Xian. He was calling her. Yi Qing Luo instinctively looked over. But she obviously felt it. Diamo Xian's gaze when he looked at her was not like his usual gentle and pampering gaze, but it was cold and elegant, extremely indifferent gaze. When he called her name, it was no longer the affectionate and sweet little Luo. Instead, his tone was completely flat, as if he was calling an unimportant person. Yi Qing Luo's heart suddenly felt dull pain. In the future, she will be your master's wife. In front of your master's wife, you must not lose your composure. Diamo Xian's quiet voice sounded indifferently. When he looked at the woman next to him, his gaze became extremely gentle. After that, he held the bride's hand and walked to the place where the ceremony was to take place. Master's wife. What *T master's wife? He was not her master. How could he look at other women with such gentle eyes? His eyes should only be looking at her. Only her. Yi Qing Luo's heart was filled with a raging fury. She stared fiercely at the scene in front of her, wishing that she could go forward and tear apart the red silk between the two of them, and tear apart the wedding robes on their bodies. He did the same. Yi Qing Luo rushed forward and grabbed the red silk between the two of them, directly grabbing the lady's phoenix robe. Who are you? Where did this vixen come from? How dare you snatch my man? She raised her hand and removed the red veil from the bride's head. That was a breathtakingly beautiful face. Her makeup was exquisite, her eyebrows were like the moon, her eyes were like stars, and her face was like a peach blossom. A pair of watery and beautiful eyes seemed to be able to speak, as if a pool of spring water could be seen. This lady's beauty was totally different from Yi Qing Luo's. Yi Qing Luo was a flamboyant, enchanting beauty. She, on the other hand, had the kind of beauty that was as gentle as water. It was as if in front of her, anything that was hard would melt into a puddle of water. Qing Luo, what are you doing? Diamo Xian berated sternly as he furiously snatched the red veil from Yi Qing Luo's hands. Apologize to your master's wife. Chapter 10:11. Di Lang? What a disgusting term. Who allowed her to call Diamo Xian that? Yiqing Luo's eyes turned scarlet. Diamo Xian was hers. He could only be hers. Diamo Xian gently caressed the bride's face as he sighed softly. If Qing Luo was half as obedient as you, I wouldn't need to worry so much. Di Lang's disciple is my disciple. The bride shyly lowered her eyelids. Diamo Xian gave a gentle smile. That smile pierced Yiqing Luo's eyes. She clenched her fists tightly as her eyes were filled with resentment as she pointed at the bride. Diamo Xian, tell me this woman, who is she? Presumptuous. Following that, a slap landed on her face. Diamo Xian's expression sunk as he stared coldly at her face, which was filled with disbelief as he spoke icily. Qing Luo, mind your own status. If you continue to be so rude and disrespectful to your master's wife, I will expel you from the sect. Qing Luo. Long Yunzhan walked up from the back as he stretched out his hand and wrapped it around her shoulders as he asked warmly, "What's the matter with you? You don't recognize Miss Feng?" Miss Feng? What Miss Feng? She had never heard of her before. Long Yunzhan, bring her down. If she continues to create trouble, the marriage between you two, then forget about it. Diamo Xian's brows surfaced traces of anger. His brows were tightly knitted as he stared coldly at Long Yunzhan. Long Yunzhan's expression changed as his arms wrapped around Yiqing Luo as he coaxed softly. "Qing Luo, for our marriage, don't make your master angry now. Come, let's go down first." Marriage? Her and Long Yunzhan's marriage? Yiqing Luo felt that her thoughts were getting more and more chaotic. As though there were many things that she was about to forget. How could she have a marriage with Long Yunzhan? And from Diamo Xian and Long Yunzhan's tone, it was obvious that she had long set a marriage agreement with Long Yunzhan, but she had not gotten Diamo Xian's pain? And she knew this Miss Feng and even supported her and Diamo Xian's marriage? Her mind was spinning rapidly as she was already half carried by Long Yunzhan as they walked towards the wedding hall's entrance. The whispers of the surrounding guests could be heard. What's going on with Dizun's little disciple? It's like he's bewitched. Look at the way she's looking at the overlord. It's as if she's caught her lover fooling around with another woman. Could it be that, the overlord and his little disciple? Shoo, don't talk nonsense. We all know the relationship between Lord Dizun and Miss Feng. Along the way it was so touching and moving, so sincere that I started to believe in love again. How could the overlord fall for another woman? That's true, Miss Feng is a supreme expert who is second only to the overlord. And she's also the East Continent's royal princess with a distinguished status. How could a mere Yiqing Luo possibly seduce the overlord? The overlord and Miss Feng are a match made in heaven. They are a perfect match. Yiqing Luo's mind was in a daze from what she heard. Second only to Diamo Xian? And a princess of the imperial family? How could this woman be so outstanding? Hearing those words like made in heaven, perfect match, etc., it made Yiqing Luo's heart started to feel a stab of pain. Her heart was in so much pain that she was unable to control her own emotions. She only felt that Diamo Xian's gaze towards the bride was exceptionally piercing to her eyes. From the bottom of her heart, a surge of anger and intense resentment surged up. Her eyes suddenly turned piercingly cold. Chapter 10-12. Diamo Xian. I will never allow you to marry other women. Her face was icy cold as the glower flame fan in her hand swiftly stirred up a hurricane. She took a step forward and moved to the bride's side. Her 5 fingers swiftly clasped onto the bride's neck. Yiqing Luo's eyes were scarlet red as it was filled with uncontrollable anger. Just as she thought that she was about to kill this woman who snatched Diamo Xian away. However, she saw that gentle and lovable woman holding her hand when they came into close contact. The bride's red lips were like flames as she smiled sinisterly. She leaned close to Yiqing Luo's ear and spoke in a ruthless tone. Yiqing Luo, give up, this man is mine. In his eyes there's only my existence. So what if you kill me? He will kill you and then commit suicide for me. The icy cold words made Yiqing Luo's ears buzz. She subconsciously let go of the glower flame fan in her hand. She wanted to cover her ears. She didn't want to listen to the bride's provocative words. But unexpectedly, the bride who was holding her wrist suddenly cried out in panic. Qing Luo, don't be like this. I don't want to hurt you. Following that, the bride swayed and fell backwards. Yiqing Luo frowned as she looked towards the bride. A ray of cold light flashed past her. A sharp long sword pierced into her abdomen. Pain. Excruciating pain, heart-wrenching pain. She could feel the blood in her body gushing out continuously. But no matter how painful the wound on her abdomen was, she couldn't beat the intense pain coming from her heart. Zhou Xian. He was really ruthless, really. He pierced her abdomen with one sword. Mercilessly pierced her abdomen. For another woman, a woman who didn't exist, pierced her abdomen. His expression was icy cold as he directly pulled out the sword. Blood splattered, and he only cared about protecting the bride in his arms, not being splashed by the blood. "Are you all right?" The bride seemed to be frightened as she nestled in his arms, shivering. "No, I'm all right." She was obviously afraid but stubbornly wanted to reassure Zhou Xian. It made one feel pity for her. Everyone's gazes towards Yiqing Luo were filled with contempt and ridicule. It was as if he was mocking her for going against ethics and actually developing feelings for her master that she shouldn't have. He even tried to assassinate his teacher's wife. Long Yunzhan's heart seemed to be hurt by Yiqing Luo's actions. His azure blue eyes were filled with disappointment. Looking at Yiqing Luo lying in a pool of blood, he finally left the wedding hall without looking back. It was as though Yiqing Luo was the only one left in the entire world. Lying on the ground, she felt her body gradually turning cold and hard. She had lost too much blood from the wound, and her consciousness was not very clear. Was he going to die? Killed by Zhou Xian himself? Yiqing Luo wanted to laugh bitterly, but the corners of her lips no longer had the energy to smile. His heart had already been shattered into pieces. "Don't you want to die?" Suddenly, an enchanting voice rang out in his mind. Yiqing Luo was stunned. She wanted to open her mouth but was unable to spit out a single word. The voice continued to laugh. "If you don't want to die, I can help you. I can also help you kill the woman who snatched Zhou Xian away and help you take revenge." Revenge? Kill that young lady Feng, kill Zhou Xian. Take revenge for all the feelings that she had given up? That's right. Don't tell me you want to die like this and see Zhou Xian and that woman without any burden, sweet and happy together? That voice slowly enticed. No, she didn't want to. Chapter 10:13. Then let me help you. The enchanting laughter was as melodious as a silver bell. But you still haven't told me who you are. Yiqing Luo thought silently in her heart. That laughter stopped. But a moment later she saw a red figure walking out from the darkness. That was the color of a blazing fire. While walking, it was like a gorgeous flame dancing lightly. Slender white feet stepping on the ground, slowly walking towards her. When she saw that person's face, Yiqing Luo was stunned. That face was her own. The woman in front of her looked exactly the same as her. The only difference was the enchanting look between her brows, which was peerlessly beautiful. And Yiqing Luo was full of grief, staring at her in a daze. "You are..." Weakly opening her lips, Yiqing Luo spat out 2 words. She slowly squatted down, her slender jade-like hand gently caressed Yiqing Luo's bloodshot face, giving an enchanting smile. "I am you, sir." Don't tell me she was already dead? Then the woman in front of her, who looked exactly like her, was a soul. Oh. Yiqing Luo enchantingly curved her lips, the hand caressing her cheeks became increasingly gentle. "I am the hatred in your heart. You want to take revenge on that heartless man, take revenge on that woman, so I appeared." Yiqing Luo stared at her in a daze. Take revenge on Zhou Xian. Take revenge on that woman who snatched Zhou Xian. She wanted revenge. She couldn't bear to see Zhou Xian and that woman live happily after her own death. Yiqing Luo's eyes was covered with intense hatred. "Yes. I want revenge. I want to kill that woman. I will never let them be happy." Yiqing Luo gazed at her for a moment. The smile on her lips deepened into an enchanting arc. She raised her hand and gently placed it on Yiqing Luo's forehead. "All right then. Leave the rest to me. Kill that woman, kill Zhou Xian, let them never be happy forever." A warm light spread out in front of her forehead. Yiqing Luo's gaze, which was filled with hatred, faintly flickered. In her mind, Yiqing Luo's words vaguely echoed. Kill Zhou Xian? Kill Zhou Xian? Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly widened. She wanted to take revenge on them for being so heartless. but she couldn't bear to kill Zhou Xian. Even if Zhou Xian had betrayed her, she could not bear for him to die. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. This woman was still resisting? She couldn't help but increase the strength in her hands as her voice was bewitching, but it was totally not Yiqing Luo's unique voice. Don't be afraid. Leave everything to me. Let me slowly devour you. I will avenge you. Kill that heartless man. Kill that woman. Come, give your body to me. You can't. The eyes of the blood-covered woman lying on the ground suddenly lit up. She stared at Yiqing Luo, and repeated word by word, "No." That red figure which was covering Yiqing Luo was about to merge with her. In an instant he was sent flying by a beam of red light. The figure fell heavily to the ground. Her beautiful face, which had an enchanting smile on it, twisted a little. "You're not me. The real me will absolutely not want to kill Zhou Xian." Yiqing Luo didn't know why, but the wound on her abdomen gradually healed. The pain all over his body also dissipated. Chapter 10:14. Yiqing Luo didn't panic at all. Her lips curled into a playful and devilish smile. "Is that so? I'm not you. That heartless man is not Zhou Xian then. Who am I? Who is he?" Yiqing Luo slowly stood up from the ground and slowly walked in front of Yiqing Luo. Her smile was charming, like the world's most bewitching poppy flower. Yiqing Luo just stared at her. There was no evasion, no fear or panic. "I'm not interested to know who you are. I'm also not interested to know who the person who impersonated Zhou Xian is." Yiqing Luo smiled lightly. Her smile was the same as the woman in front of her. Enchanting, unparalleled. She raised her hand and locked Yiqing Luo's neck without hesitation. "I only know you are going to disappear." Yiqing Luo smiled again, raised her neck high. "Then let me disappear. If I disappear, even if you want to take revenge, there's no second chance." "Revenge? I don't need it." Yiqing Luo sneered. Her 5 fingers suddenly exerted force. The woman in front of her, who looked exactly the same as her, instantly turned into ashes. Yiqing Luo looked at her empty hand. The feeling of strangling the woman's neck seemed to still remain in her palm. She sobered up. Here it was the same as the old man song she met previously. It was an illusion deliberately to confuse her mind. "Heh heh 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 heh." Suddenly, a burst of horrifying laughter came from her surroundings. That voice, wasn't it the voice of the Yiqing Luo, who was strangled by her? "What I'm most afraid of is losing the people I care about, losing Zhou Xian's love. There are many people who are worthy of Zhou Xian, but I am the only one. Even if the world is destroyed, I will absolutely not let Zhou Xian go." That voice was leisurely. Word by word set out Yiqing Luo's thoughts. Yes. Because of the gap between herself and Zhou Xian, Yiqing Luo had indeed thought about it, and even she and Zhou Xian truly loved each other. But the distance between them destined that the road of love would not be so smooth. It wasn't that he hadn't thought about it. Perhaps standing beside Zhou Xian was another person who was worthy of him. Perhaps it would be better. However, every time this thought flashed through his mind, he would immediately remove it from his mind. She would never give up Zhou Xian to any woman. One day she would have enough qualifications to make everyone acknowledge her, just like how those people in the dreamland acknowledged Miss Feng, acknowledging her existence. This illusion purposely captured the fleeting darkness in her heart. He weaved such an illusion. He wanted to force her to lose control of her emotions and devouring her body. Luckily, at the last moment, because of the illusion, she said that she wanted to kill Zhou Xian, which made her regain her consciousness. She closed her eyes and rested for a moment. The minute she opened her eyes, Yiqing Luo was stunned. This was the garden that little Nine had brought her to before. Amidst the colorful flower beds, one could vaguely see the tall figure of a man, who was doing something in the flower beds. Hearing movement behind him, the man turned around. Yiqing Luo only felt that everything in front of her had instantly lost its color. In her eyes there was only that peerless man. Why was he here? Could it be another dreamland? Yiqing Luo's heart trembled as she stared at him vigilantly. Chapter 10:15. Gentle tone, affectionate expression, eyes filled with pampering. Every word that came out of his mouth seemed to be able to tug at her heart. The heartbroken heart in the illusion earlier had been healed. What's the matter? Do you want me to carry you over? Zhou Xian saw that she didn't move for a long time and gave a low laugh as he stood up and walked over to her. His purple robe billowed, and under the bouquet of flowers, he looked like a deity who had descended. Unparalleled handsomeness, incomparable. Yiqing Luo's feet seemed to be nailed to the ground, unable to move. Zhou Xian had already walked in front of her. His slender fingers with distinct joints swept past the hair on her forehead. Following that, he lifted her chin and gave a light kiss on her lips. His arm tightly wrapped around her slender waist. A thick masculine scent filled Yiqing Luo's nose. It almost made her faint. Her hand tightened. She grabbed the arm around her waist. Her voice was calm. "Let go of me." This was an illusion. She couldn't be affected by the illusion. But the next moment the man's hand suddenly covered her head. He seemed to have placed something on her head. Yiqing Luo was stunned and was about to stretch out her hand to touch. Zhou Xian's large palm had already caught her little hand. His other hand flicked his sleeve. In the midst of the purple and red flower beds, a 2-meter-tall bronze mirror appeared. It clearly reflected the scene of the both of them hugging each other tightly. Zhou Xian's boiling hot chest covered Yiqing Luo's delicate back. His head pillowed on her slender shoulder. One hand, wrapped around her slender waist, pulled the distance between the both of them closer. Yiqing Luo looked at the bronze mirror. On her head, there was a circle of flower garland. That was a flower garland which was weaved by blossoms of bright red cherry blossoms. "Do you like it?" he asked in her ear. Yiqing Luo's face suddenly flushed red. The tight string in her brain on seeing this flower garland completely broke. Her heartbeat suddenly sped up. He personally weaved a flower garland. For her, personally weaved a flower garland. She blushed and nodded. "I like it. As long as you like it, it's worth the effort I put in to weave this garland." Zhou Xian chuckled lowly as he raised his hand as if he was asking for praise. His slender fingers were covered with cuts and bruises of various sizes caused by the thin objects in his eyes. Yiqing Luo's long curly lashes fluttered as she held his hand and gently kissed those marks. The body of the man who was sticking close to him suddenly stiffened. Following that, his palms covered her body. His hands moved over her body domineeringly and not gently. Yiqing Luo's face blushed slightly as she immediately grabbed his hand in embarrassment. However, the man lifted her chin with his other hand. He forced her to look at herself in the bronze mirror. In the mirror, the woman's face was blushing. Her eyes were curved like silk, as if she was sending out a tempting invitation. Her red lips parted slightly as she gasped softly. Her soft and delicate body squirmed restlessly. As for the man behind her, his expression was that of someone who had fallen into the valley of love. Shimmering peach blossom eyes, deep and serene. His heavy breathing was beside her ear. "Lil Luo, Lil Luo, He called out her name. His voice was hoarse, revealing a sense of urgency. Yiqing Luo's face was flushed red. Her entire body was limp, without any energy. This softness gave the man behind her more chances. His large palm had already covered Yiqing Luo's chest. Chapter 10:16. Lil Luo, I can't take it anymore. The man leaned against her ear as he breathed heavily. His voice seemed to be filled with endless pain. "Lil Luo, give birth to a child for me." Yiqing Luo's heart jolted as it started to race. What did you say?" "Give birth." Zhou Xian he wanted her to give birth to a child. Give birth to a child that belonged to the both of them? "Lil Luo, I want to be with you forever. Let's build a home here. There's you, me and the children at home." Zhou Xian's hand had already unbuttoned her robe. His voice was getting hoarser. Yiqing Luo was still conscious as her little hand held onto him, stopping his hand. "No. You can't." Her resistance made the man frown slightly. He paused in his action as he pressed Yiqing Luo's shoulder and turned her around to face him. His body suddenly moved forward and pressed Yiqing Luo against the bronze mirror. The bronze mirror's icy cold touch made Yiqing Luo's petite body tremble slightly. The man encircled her in between the bronze mirror and himself as he lowered his eyelids. "Why can't I?" She was so shy that she didn't dare to look at him. Even if they had met the last time, she was still unable to adapt to it. Don't want to be with me forever, don't want to build a home with me, and don't want to give birth to a child for me? He questioned her aggressively. No. No. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes in a fluster as her heart suddenly trembled. It's really not that I don't want to, but what? His body pressed down and his scorching breath sprayed onto her face. It made her heart even more confused. Yiqing Luo blushed as she panted lightly as she shook her head. But there seems to be something missing. Build a family with him. Give birth to a baby that belonged to both of them. Be together forever. This kind of happiness, why wouldn't she be willing? Only, there was a voice deep in her heart which seemed to be calling out for something. She felt that somewhere in her heart was empty, unable to be filled with happiness. She felt that something was still missing. The man frowned as his fingers locked onto her lower jaw as he lowered his head to kiss her. You can still be distracted now, looks like. I haven't worked hard enough? The moment his kiss came down, Yiqing Luo didn't know why but subconsciously turned her head away. His burning hot lips landed on her face. The man paused and let go of her chin. What's wrong? I don't know. Why do I always feel empty in my heart? What was that thing? It had been calling out to her from the bottom of her heart. World Mercenary Group. This is the world I promised to you. Qing Luo, it's all thanks to you. Because of your appearance, Devil Class has changed. Madam Qing Luo. I will definitely work hard to become stronger, work hard to become qualified to follow behind you. Chapter 10:17. The DMO Xian in front of her no longer had that gentle and pampering expression on his face. That peerlessly handsome face gradually twisted into a sinister expression. His fingers clasped Yiqing Luo's wrist tightly. His fingertips were like sharp blades as though they were about to pierce into her flesh. You're not willing to stay here with me? He asked with anger in his eyes. Her shimmering peach blossom eyes were filled with despair and heartache. Yiqing Luo hissed in pain as she frowned and stared at her hand which was clasped tightly. Xian, it's not that I'm not willing, but there shouldn't be only the two of us here. But I only want everything here, only me and you. The man retorted her sharply. Xian. Yiqing Luo's slender brows knitted even tighter. Her charming eyes gazed deeply at this man whose expression was turning gloomier, as she pursed her lips tightly. Not right. Not right. You're not DMO Xian. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened as she retreated a few steps. This is an illusion. Right, he was not DMO Xian. She should still be in the illusion created by the gates of hell. No wonder. She instinctively developed an indescribable resistance towards this DMO Xian. She was obviously touched by everything he had done for her. But she was not willing to let him touch her. DMO Xian, in front of her, had a sinister expression as it slowly dispersed. His lips curled as his serene deep eyes locked onto her. I'm an illusion? Lil Luo, you can't even recognize your own man? My man, of course I can recognize him. At this moment Yiqing Luo's face had already faded from the blush and shyness, as her charming eyes were as clear as water, calm and indifferent. So you're not him. DMO Xian went silent. He stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking as his eyes were gloomy and unclear. His thick long eyelashes trembled slightly as his sleeves moved slightly, and a dagger appeared in his hand. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she took a step back vigilantly. But she saw DMO Xian passing the dagger to her as his thin lips rose slightly. Since you think I'm an illusion, then take the dagger and stab me. After that he withdrew his hand, placed it on his heart and tapped it. Yiqing Luo's hand that was holding the dagger stiffened as her eyes widened. What do you mean? Since you're so sure that I'm an illusion, killing me is a piece of cake, isn't it? The man smiled faintly. There were no ripples in his eyes. If I kill you, will I be able to return to reality? Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips tightly, the hand holding the dagger tightened. She was sure that this was an illusion. According to the books, if one wanted to enter the gates of hell, they had to remove the 3 bugs in their body, which were greed, anger, and obsession. In that case, the test of the gates of hell was probably a test of passing through these 3 temptations and exterminating these 3 insects. It could be considered as having passed through the gates of hell. The peak of old man Song's profound strength was the first stage's greed. When Zhou Xian married another woman, he drew out the resentment in her heart, and that was the second stage of anger. Zhou Xian's gentle pampering, wishing to be with her for the rest of his life, just the two of them and their child. This was the third stage's infatuation. As long as he killed this illusion, he would be able to break the illusion of the third stage. The 3 bugs would definitely be removed from her body. She took a deep breath as her charming eyes fixated on the man in front of her. She raised the dagger and tentatively leaned it against his chest. The man didn't have the slightest hesitation or intention to avoid it. On the contrary, he spread out his hands, displaying a look of allowing her to ravage him. Yiqing Luo gritted her teeth. This was just an illusion. The real Zhou Xian was still waiting for her outside the illusion. This place, after all, was not reality. Chapter 10:18. The dagger stopped when it was just a finger's width away from Zhou Xian's heart. Yiqing Luo's fingers, which were holding the dagger, had turned white. He couldn't do it. Facing Zhou Xian's face, even if she knew. He was just an illusion, a non-existent illusion. But she still couldn't do it. The dagger which was pressed against his heart just couldn't pierce through. He had the same face as Zhou Xian. He had the same temperament as Zhou Xian. He had the same tenderness and pampering as Zhou Xian. Facing such a man who was no different from Zhou Xian. Her heart couldn't do it. At this moment, Yiqing Luo finally understood a long time ago, when she was still the patriarch of the hidden family. The elders nagged at her daily. She must remember to cut off the roots of love. Remember, she must not fall in love with anyone. Once she fell in love, there would be a weakness. Once there was a weakness, it would be easy to be controlled by others. Just like now, Yiqing Luo was unable to do anything to Zhou Xian, even if she knew that it was just an illusion. This was probably a common problem for every woman. In terms of feelings, they would never be able to be decisive. Can't do it. The man's lips curled slightly as he lowered his eyelids, quietly staring at the anxious young lady in front of him. Unable to do anything to me, that is enough to prove that you can't be sure that I'm an illusion. You just don't want to stay here with me. Your heart is not entirely on me. You are unwilling to build a family that belongs to us, so why not give birth to a child that belongs to us? Yiqing Luo, you don't love me at all. His words were calm without any ripples. As though he was stating a fact. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes were silent as she looked at him quietly. What you said is very right, but there's one point you're wrong. He raised his brows, waiting for her words. My heart is not on you at all. Yiqing Luo said each word clearly, because you're not Zhou Xian. She closed her eyes, her slender fingers, holding a red feather fan, rolled up a hurricane, directly rolling the man in front of her up. Her fingertips flicked and flung hard. The purple robe turned into an afterimage in the sky and disappeared. At the same time, the surrounding scenery gradually dispersed. What replaced it was no longer a vast expanse of white fog. Instead, it was a dark underground palace. He was still standing in front of Hell's Gate. Around her, over 1,000 students turned back into terracotta soldiers, standing stiffly on the spot. The expression on his face was painful and unbearable. Every few breaths, a student with a pained expression would turn into a streak of white light and disappear into the crowd. These people must have been defeated by the 3 trials created by the gates of hell. Unable to control his emotions, he was eliminated from the heavenly pagoda. Sister. Kitty Lee's crisp voice was heard from behind as she hooked onto Yiqing Luo's arm. Sister has left the mirage so quickly? Yiqing Luo nodded. You're also that fast? Kitty is a beastman's cat beast. I don't have any grudges or obsessions. Kitty Lee blinked her lively eyes. After I was sent into the illusion, Big Sister appeared in the illusion. Big Sister said that she wanted to be with Kitty Lee forever, and she wanted to sign a blood contract with Kitty Lee. However, as a cat of the orc race, Kitty is extremely sensitive to your scent. Although the Big Sister in the illusory realm looks exactly the same, she smells different. Her illusory realm was all about Yiqing Luo. Because of this, Kitty Lee immediately exposed everything and returned to reality. But the other students were still trapped in the illusion, unable to walk out. Especially Qiao Jin's expression was the ugliest. Chapter 10:19. Sister, if Xiao Jin goes on like this, will he not be able to take it? Kitty Lee stared at Xiao Jin worriedly. The person who was trapped in the illusion couldn't be touched or suddenly awakened. If the person who was trapped in the illusion was startled, there was a possibility that the person's soul would be shattered into pieces. Yiqing Luo stared at Xiao Jin and after some time she gave a faint smile. What do you think? Goldie will see in the illusion. Kitty Lee blinked her big round eyes and without thinking she directly replied, Sister Xiao Yi. Cat beasts were more sensitive to human emotions than ordinary people. Yiqing Luo smiled. Looks like. After this blockhead lad comes out from the illusion, he should understand his own heart. Kitty Lee blinked her eyes in puzzlement. Xiao Jin was currently in a peach orchard forest. In the middle of the peach orchard forest, there was a small wooden house which wasn't considered spacious. It was surrounded by white fences and there were a few adorable magical beasts wandering around. Beside the well in front of the wooden house, a petite figure had her head lowered as she washed the clothes in her hands seriously. His heart skipped a beat. There seemed to be a strange feeling that was pulling him toward that figure. But just as he neared the fences, Xiao Jin shut his eyes suddenly. No. Not right. This was also an illusion. After consecutively passing through 2 rounds of illusion, Xiao Jin had already guessed that this was the 3 bugs test at the gates of hell. Although he almost died in the illusion for the first 2 rounds, but at least he managed to walk out of it. As long as he passed through the 3rd round he would be able to pass. Xiao Jin clenched his fists tightly and immediately opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with determination. But the figure who was washing the clothes with her head lowered seemed to have sensed someone approaching as she slowly raised her head. Ah Jin. That person raised her head and when she saw Xiao Jin, her beautiful eyes were filled with a gentle smile. Xiao Jin was rooted to the original spot. Why was she here? Why, in his illusion Yan Shaoyi would appear. That's right. The person in front of him who was dressed in a simple yet elegant blue long dress, with her sleeves rolled up to reveal her fair arms, was Yan Shaoyi. Yan Shaoyi's eyes were filled with smiles as she wiped her wet hands on her clothes. Then she slowly walked to his side and put her arms around his waist. Jin, welcome home. Xiao Jin stood rooted to the ground. His eyes were originally filled with determination, but when he saw Yan Shaoyi, it had already crumbled. Could actually be so gentle. She treated him so gently. Xiao Jin wanted to regain his rationality, trying hard to tell himself that this was an illusion. However, Yan Shaoyi's lips had already taken the initiative to kiss his lips. She grabbed his large palm and slowly placed it on her soft body. Ah Jin, I miss you so much. His gentle voice was extremely soft. It seemed to be bewitching Xiao Jin. And Xiao Jin was indeed bewitched. She smiled at him. The smile was gentle and affectionate. It was as if he was the only one in her eyes. She had never smiled at him like this before. He hadn't spoken to Yan Shaoyi for half a month, nor had he seen Yan Shaoyi. Now he saw Yan Shaoyi's gentleness and deep love. This caused Xiao Jin's heart to gradually sink. Ah Jin, why aren't you saying anything? Yan Shaoyi slowly raised her head and kissed his Adam's apple. Her beautiful eyes were filled with a trace of moisture. I want you to touch me. Xiao Jin's body tensed up. Under the woman's deliberate teasing, his breathing was uncontrollably messed up. Chapter 10:20. Child. Xiao Jin held her shoulders and pulled the distance between them. Are you talking about a child? The woman in his arms was blushing, her eyes were seductive like a fox. Xiao Jin's heart was beating violently. He tightened his grip on her shoulders. It showed his forbearance at this moment. Although Xiao Jin had never had deep contact with any woman since he was young. But he understood that this feeling was a man's yearning. Every man would know what to do next without a teacher. Yes, our child. She winked at him coquettishly, her body limp in his arms and scattered kisses fell on his body. Then, what about him? Xiao Jin's throat moved as he forced himself to ask. Yes, child, how could he and Yan Shaoyi have a child? This must be an illusion. He could not fall into an illusion. Are you deliberately teasing me? The woman raised her fist and lightly landed on his chest. The woman's coquettish voice sounded in his arms. Didn't you say that you would give me another child and give me a surprise today? That's why I sent him away. Her voice became softer and softer. In the end, she buried herself in his arms shyly. Xiao Jin's breathing quickened, his dark eyes gazed deeply at the woman in his arms. Her little face was blushing like an innocent girl, captivating. Her beautiful eyes were hazy, and her coquettish appearance made one infatuated. This was not an illusion. How could this be an illusion? He had Xianxia, a child that belonged to them, their home. How could it be an illusion? This was the place that truly belonged to him. Where's the surprise? The woman blushed and looked up at him. Xiao Jin's eyes gradually deepened. He stretched out his long arms and held her waist in his arms. Crossing the fence, he walked directly into the wooden hut and pressed her down on the bed. His low voice was filled with yearning. Surprise, I'll give it to you now. The woman under him smiled coquettishly, her arms circling his neck, and offered her red lips. Xiao Jin bent down and was about to kiss her. In his mind, a furious voice suddenly resounded. Xiao Jin, since you like Tao Tao so much, why don't you look for her? Why do you have to harass me? I don't want to see you. I hate you. Xiao Jin, I hate you. Xiao Jin, I hate you. Xiao Jin's chest felt stifled, his expression somewhat absent-minded. The woman under him arched her body slightly and moved closer to him. Ah Jin, what's wrong? You. Xiao Jin's brows knitted tightly as he clutched his chest with one hand. What was going on? That voice just now, wasn't that Yan Xiaoyi's voice? He said hate him? But the woman beneath him called him Ah Jin in the same gentle voice. Why does my heart feel so painful and uncomfortable? Ah Jin, don't think about it. Don't think about it anymore. In your heart, in your eyes, just think about me, think about me. The woman beneath him seemed to have sensed his inattention. Her arched body pressed against Xiao Jin's body. She wrapped her arms around Xiao Jin's neck, her warm kisses teasing his senses without warning. It was just that this time, Xiao Jin didn't have the feeling of being bewitched like before. He also didn't have the feeling of sinking into it. The stifled feeling in his chest made him unable to care about the woman's teasing. Reaching out, he pushed the woman away and flipped himself off the bed. Ah Jin. She called out in a panic, reaching out, wanting to grab Xiao Jin. Chapter 1021. He remembered that he secretly hugged the unconscious Yan Xiaoyi. He remembered that he forcefully kissed Yan Xiaoyi. He remembered that Yan Xiaoyi intentionally avoided him, not willing to see him again. He remembered that Yan Xiaoyi said, hated him. This Yan Xiaoyi wasn't Yan Xiaoyi at all. Everything here was an illusion. Jinzi, Jinzi. Yiqing Luo saw Xiao Jin sweating profusely and his eyelids twitching. He should have passed the third round. When she called out softly, Xiao Jin suddenly opened his eyes. His pupils were filled with astonishment and shock. He panted heavily as he sat down heavily on the ground. Xiao Jin, what did you meet in the illusion? Why do you look so terrible? Kitty Li squatted on the ground, looking at him curiously. Xiao Jin stared at Kitty Li, still panting heavily. His gaze was focused for some time before it gathered. I didn't meet anything. He shifted his gaze, shaking his head. Yiqing Luo stared at him meaningfully for some time, as she more or less understood something. Greed, anger and obsession. These 3 rounds, the first 2 rounds, as long as one's willpower was firm, it was actually very easy to pass through. But the 3rd round. Obsession. No one could resist this round. That was to present the most desired thing in human nature, right in front of them. In the 3rd round, without any accidents, they would all sink into it. What was the obsession in Xiao Jin's heart? What was it? Probably. It was no different from hers. Just at this moment, Long Yunzhan, who was standing beside her, suddenly gave a dull moan. Suddenly he opened his azure blue eyes. Following that, like Xiao Jin, he fell onto the ground unsteadily as his face turned pale, as he broke out in cold sweat. Zhan. Yiqing Luo immediately went up to support Long Yunzhan, as she was about to take out her scroll to wipe the cold sweat off his forehead. Suddenly his large palm slapped her hand away. She was stunned. This slap, although it wasn't heavy, but it was still a little painful. She frowned. Ah Zhan, what's the matter? Long Yunzhan suddenly regained his senses as his azure blue eyes wavered as he directly snatched the handkerchief from her hand. Nothing, I just haven't regained my senses, don't bother about me. He carelessly wiped the sweat off his forehead as he turned around. Perhaps he had encountered something that he found hard to talk about in the illusion. Yiqing Luo didn't interrogate further as she stood up and gazed at the remaining few Devil Class students. After about an hour, the students of Devil Class had finally overcome their 3 views and successfully walked out of the illusion. Yiqing Luo gave them another incense worth of time to adjust their emotions. After that, the 10 of them walked past the other students who were still trapped in the illusion and entered the gates of hell. This time there were no obstructions. After stepping into Hell's Gate, everything in front of him didn't immediately transform into another space like when he first entered Hell's Gate. In front of him was still the gloomy underground palace. An infinitely long flight of stairs spiraled downwards. As far as the eye could see, it was impossible to see the bottom. And the most frightening thing was, in this huge underground palace, there was only this bottomless staircase floating in the air. There were no fences around, no footholds except stairs. What is this? Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes vigilantly and said with a dignified expression, "It seems that after passing through 2 levels, there is still no way to leave the heavenly pagoda. This ability assessment. Just how many levels were there?" Yiqing Luo had an especially strange feeling. This totally didn't seem to be an assessment related to one's own ability. On the contrary, it seemed to be testing one's soul. Chapter 1022. Yiqing Luo's mind instantly cleared up. The King of Darkness from the Dark Forces, didn't he want the cultivator's soul? The director wanted to bring forward the inter-class competition to hold the ability assessment. In actual fact, it was to test the student's soul. A clean, without any distracting thoughts, was the most delicious soul. Yiqing Luo finally understood the reason why the director insisted on holding the ability assessment. If this assessment was for the soul which the King of Darkness wanted, that meant that the students who passed the ability assessment had a high possibility of falling into the hands of the King of Darkness. This assessment their Devil Class must definitely pass. There was a possibility that this was a way to get close to the King of Darkness. Everyone be careful, this round is not simple. The first 2 rounds were all about taking one's life or crushing one's soul from the depths of one's heart. This round was absolutely not simple. An Pan surveyed the surroundings and looked at the half-opened gates of hell, muttering to himself for a moment, "Madame Qing Luo, this is the inside of the gates of hell? Which means, there is a possibility that this is the stairway to the 18 levels of hell." 18 levels of hell? The other students repeated the sentence in disbelief, their eyes filled with astonishment. 18 levels of hell is not a place for dead people to go, wee. Isn't the gates of hell also a place for dead people to enter? Tong Ziqing's expression was still cold. 18 levels of hell it is, let's charge through it first. While speaking, her gaze unknowingly looked towards Long Yunzhan. Long Yunzhan seemed as though he didn't notice it as he replied indifferently, "No matter if it's a place for dead people or not, since we're already here, if we want to pass the test and take part in the inter-class competition, then we must go." When the other students heard that, they kept away their fearful expressions and immediately stood up straight. "Yes, class monitor." Yiqing Luo looked at the spiraling downwards, the bottomless stairway and looked down. All she saw was a patch of strange green candlelight. Other than the stairway, she couldn't see anything else. Yiqing Luo's vigilance didn't dissipate because of this. She took the lead and stepped on the stairway first as she walked down carefully. After walking for 10 over steps, she didn't discover anything strange nor did she sense any danger. Go down slowly and be prepared to use your profound jade heart to maintain your body's lightness. Yiqing Luo instructed. The few of them responded and took turns to step on the stairway. They walked extremely slowly and in a short while they had already passed through more than 100 floors. However, the surroundings were still empty. Only the green candlelight floated along the stairs, illuminating them. Right at this moment, they heard a commotion coming from the top of the stairs, which was also the end of Hell's Gate. From the sound of it, there were at least 20 to 30 people. They had successfully walked out of the illusion. Yiqing Luo frowned as she stopped in her tracks and looked up. A group of students swarmed in. The first person to stand beside the stairs and look down at them was actually Shangguan Liuli. That big-breasted, brainless woman who was controlled by the dark forces. He actually passed the test of the 3 separations? Could it be that he had borrowed the power of the mysterious Yin Qi? How dare you cheat in the heavenly pagoda? Aren't you afraid of being discovered by the teacher of justice? Chapter 1023. Shangguan Liuli's voice attracted quite a number of students' attention. They were shocked that after walking into the gates of hell, they didn't fall into any other space or illusion. Suddenly hearing Shangguan Liuli's words, they subconsciously rushed over. Then he saw the spiral staircase descending. Whereas Yiqing Luo and the rest had already walked along the staircase for a long distance. How could this bunch of waste pass the 3 rounds of illusion? High profound class students were filled with anger. They almost fell into the illusion, and if it wasn't for the fact that they found the loophole in the illusion at the last minute to regain their consciousness, they wouldn't be able to walk out of the illusion. How would these waste have the ability to walk out of the illusion? They even snatched the chance to head towards the 3rd space. It must be as what Shangguan Liuli said, that illusion was Yiqing Luo's doing. Yiqing Luo wanted to take the opportunity to pass the ability assessment for the 10 of them in her class. Specially created an illusion for them. Otherwise, how would they have the chance to snatch the chance? That bunch of waste actually treated them as fools to make a fool out of them. Yiqing Luo, don't even think of escaping. Devil class, you stop right there. I'm going to kill you. Treacherous villains. A bunch of villains who only know how to play dirty tricks. Those high profound class and intermediate profound class students had intense hatred in their eyes. One by one they followed the staircase and chased after Yiqing Luo and the rest. That bunch of people must be sick. Qiao Jin stared at those 20 over people as they walked up the staircase in unison. One Shangguan Liuli, with just a few simple words, was able to lead them by the nose so easily. These people. Are they really the so-called elite students? The other students shook their heads, but they couldn't conceal their contempt towards these so-called high profound class, intermediate profound class students. It was said that Heavenly Academy was the best academy in Nirvana realm. All the students were extremely talented, which made one envious. Especially for the high profound class, those were the elite students among the geniuses. But the students of the devil class were deeply suspicious. They felt that the intelligence of the high profound class was so low that they couldn't bear to ridicule them. There's a problem here. Yiqing Luo calmly opened her mouth as her eyes squinted slightly. Her fingers gently brushed past the green candlelight floating in the air. The stairway to the 18 levels of hell is also one of the tests of the mysterious pagoda. Yiqing Luo had been paying attention to the surrounding candlelight for a long time. The faint green candlelight was strange and cold. Even though there was no wind, it swayed the surrounding shadows. What made Yiqing Luo felt strange was when the candlelight flickered. It gave her an extremely uncomfortable feeling. The stairway to the 18 levels of hell is almost the same as the first trial of the upper profound pagoda, the Golden Desert. Yiqing Luo retracted her hand as she explained, "These candlelight give off a scent that humans are unable to smell, but it can cause a huge impact on humans. This smell can release the darkest and evilest thoughts in a human's heart and affect their emotions." That was to say, the students who had barged into the gates of hell had all been infected by the evil thoughts of the green candlelight gas. That was why he became easily angered, dark and ruthless. Big sister is right. Kitty smelled it. Kitty Lee raised her paw. The minute I entered, Kitty smelled a strange smell. Kitty thought it was the Yin Qi from the gates of hell, so I didn't think too much about it. Then, why are we fine? Tong Ziqing frowned as she asked. Chapter 1024. Just as the 10 students from the devil class were about to set off towards the Xianxia plaza, it was unknown how God Pirate avoided the various devices around the college and sneaked into the devil class. He wore a long robe that shone with golden ingots. The jades in his hair trembled as he moved. Coincidentally, he was holding a pot of medicinal soup in his hand, which emitted a medicinal fragrance. This made Yiqing Luo speechless and unable to vent. Holy pirates sneaked into the college just to give them a pot of medicine. They said that this pot of medicinal soup would be helpful for their strength test today. Before the 10 of them set off, each of them took a sip. Anai Ruopan's eyes lit up. In other words, the medicinal soup that God Pirate gave us is to stabilize our minds and isolate the yin energy and miasma from the gates of hell and the 18 levels of hell. No wonder they could always wake up at the most critical moment in the illusion. It was likely that Holy Thief's medicinal soup had taken effect. Yiqing Luo nodded her head. Indeed so. At that time I smelled the ingredients of the medicinal soup, but I didn't think too much about it. Now that I see these green candlelight, I understand that the medicinal soup is resisting against yin qi and miasma. That pot of medicinal soup should not have been prepared by God Pirate. To be able to know the contents of the Heavenly Pagoda's test and prepare the medicinal soup beforehand, he was also acquainted with God Thief, and he could use God Thief's hand to deliver it to them. Who could it be? In his mind suddenly flashed that scene in the World Group's old residence. In Holy Pirate's room he saw the scene between Holy Pirate and Ghost Doctor. This medicinal soup was brewed by the Ghost Doctor, right? What was the relationship between the Ghost Doctor and God Thief? She didn't have time to think about it. Shangguan Liuli's voice was already nearing. Yiqing Luo. Don't even think about running. You almost caused us to die in the illusion and you still want to escape? Today I must dismember your corpse into 10,000 pieces. Shangguan Liuli walked very quickly. He didn't seem to care about the fact that there were no fences on either side of the stairs. Furthermore, the stairs were full of twists and turns. If he wasn't careful, he might miss the stairs and fall into the bottomless abyss. In just a short moment he had already caught up to Yiqing Luo and the others. Behind him, those students from the high profound class were moving step by step. His heroic spirit soared to the sky, and the imposing manner of seeking revenge on Yiqing Luo had been greatly diminished by this terrifying flight of stairs. Shangguan Liuli was alone, yet she dared to charge at them. It should be said that she was brave. Or should it be said that he could do whatever he wanted just by relying on the mysterious yin qi? Yiqing Luo gave a faint laugh as she ignored Shangguan Liuli's hooting. You guys leave, don't bother about her. For the ability assessment, Yiqing Luo didn't intend to let Devil Class's students take action. After all, not only the students in the Heaven Pagoda who were still taking the test would know the secret of the Devil Class in advance. The general situation in the pagoda would also be narrated by one of the teachers in charge of the Heaven Pagoda. There was no point in knowing everything now. Long Yunzhan and the others nodded slightly and continued forward slowly. He did not lose his rhythm because of the students' pursuit. No matter what, safety was the most important. Yiqing Luo stood on the spot, waiting for Shangguan Liuli to approach. Shangguan Liuli was like a crazy woman as she directly dashed in front of Yiqing Luo and stretched out her hand to push her. Yiqing Luo, if you have the ability, then make a move on me. I'm warning you, this is the Heaven Pagoda, and if you dare to make a move on me, you will be disqualified from the assessment. Shangguan Liuli was delighted. This was the consequence of Yiqing Luo's arrogance. She actually dared to bring only 9 students into the assessment. Once Yiqing Luo's qualification was disqualified, it would be the same as Devil Class, with no chance to take part in the inter-class competition. Chapter 1025. Yiqing Luo only moved sideways slightly to avoid Shangguan Liuli's palm strike. Shangguan Liuli pushed empty air and almost lost her footing as her entire body fell forward. This fall made Shangguan Liuli shriek in terror. She stood at the side of the staircase as she bent down to look below. The endless staircase, she had no idea how deep or how high it was below. A jade pendant fell down from her waist. For some time, there was no sound of the jade pendant hitting the ground. Shangguan Liuli's face turned pale. Those students who carefully stepped on the staircase also shuddered. The staircase, how deep was it? For such a long time, there was no sound of the jade pendant falling onto the ground. If it fell, it was possible that she would be smashed into smithereens. Shangguan Liuli was so frightened that her hands turned into a spiral shape as she kept moving backwards. Following that, her body fell backwards as her buttocks fell heavily onto the staircase. Shangguan Liuli still had a lingering fear as she touched her chest as she trembled in fear. When her gaze landed on Yiqing Luo, who was standing by the side watching the show with her arms crossed, Shangguan Liuli's petite body shuddered as the fearful expression on her face was replaced by sullen anger. Yiqing Luo, are you doing this on purpose? You intentionally want me to fall down. You want to kill me. There was a hole in this lady's brain. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue as she glanced at her with a smile yet not a smile. According to what you said, if I push you, you can't avoid it? If you avoid it, then you're trying to kill me? Her words had just ended as her figure speedily approached. Her palm moved and pushed towards Shangguan Lioli. Yiqing Luo. How dare you? Shangguan Lioli was so scared that her face turned pale as she scrambled up the stairs. If you dare to push me, you will be disqualified from the assessment. See, didn't you also avoid it? You're trying to make me fall down on purpose, intentionally trying to kill me? Yiqing Luo spread out her hands as she used Shangguan Lioli's original words to counter. It's said that a woman's heart is the most vicious. Student Shangguan is really vicious. You. Shangguan Lioli was so angry that her face turned pale. Before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by Yiqing Luo. Moreover, if I push you down, I'll be disqualified from the assessment. Earlier when I dodged, didn't I help you retain your assessment rights? Come to think of it, you should thank me. Devil Class's 9 people who had been paying close attention to their situation, upon hearing Yiqing Luo's shameless words which made Shangguan Lioli unable to rebuke, couldn't help but burst out laughing. Student Shangguan, what Qing Luo said is right, you should thank Qing Luo. Qiao Jin nodded in agreement. Not only do you have to thank me, you have to apologize as well, Tong Ziqing said coldly. Every word she said sounded like a command. Apologize. Oh, that's right. Student Shangguan relied on the fact that he is a student of the intermediate profound class and wanted to harm our devil class students. If this matter were to spread to the other students or the academy's ears. Anai Rupan covered her mouth under the veil and giggled. Intermediate profound class students attempted to harm devil class students during the academy's assessment, and even threatened devil class students. Isn't this gimmick explosive enough? The successive words caused the faces of the 20 students to turn green and white. Shangguan Lioli's expression was the ugliest. This bunch of trash actually had such a sharp tongue. In front of them elite students, they even dared to talk back. Did they think that with Yiqing Luo as their backing they could do anything? Chapter 1026. Yiqing Luo stood there calmly with her arms crossed over her chest. As though she totally didn't care about Shangguan Lioli's provocation. The hatred in Shangguan Lioli's eyes grew thicker as a black chi swam around in her eyes. Yiqing Luo, don't be too complacent. Even if I'm disqualified, my intermediate profound class too. If 10 of us can walk out of the heavenly pagoda, then we can still take part in the inter-class competition. But you... Once you're disqualified, your devil class will definitely lose. Shangguan Lioli laughed out loud. She only had one aim now. That was to make Yiqing Luo disqualified from the assessment. To make devil class unable to take part in the inter-class competition. Her gaze turned cold as her expression suddenly turned severe. Out of nowhere he took out a long sword. Leaping up, he went past Yiqing Luo and headed straight towards those trash and devil class, charging straight towards them. Want to touch my people? Yiqing Luo scoffed lightly as her 5 fingers opened up and a palm chi turned into a huge dragon. The rumbling chi brought along a strong hurricane. Shangguan Lioli's figure swayed, and under the strong hurricane, she couldn't maintain her figure at all. She recalled the scene of the jade pendant falling down the stairs without any sound. Shangguan Lioli didn't dare to be presumptuous. She could only give up on killing the bunch of trash in devil class and stabilize herself first. She had just stood still. Suddenly, a deafening roar was heard from the bottom of the stairs. From far to near. But in the blink of an eye, a huge shadow rushed in front of everyone. That shadow landed heavily on the stairs beside Shangguan Lioli. The huge figure separated Yiqing Luo and the other 9 students. Boom! A loud sound was heard and the rumbling air waves shook the stairs. Those students who had just walked up 10 steps immediately wailed like ghosts as their legs turned soft on the stairs, not daring to walk any further. Shangguan Lioli was also shocked by this shock as she knelt down on the ground. She could clearly feel a powerful force behind her, right in front of her. But she didn't dare to turn back. What on earth would rush up from the bottom of the stairs? Yiqing Luo could see it clearly. She squinted her eyes as she stared calmly at that lump of thing behind Shangguan Lioli. It should be called a thing. It was a lump that looked like a lump of meat. On top of the meat, There were even scorching bubbles as if the meat was boiling. It was so massive that it occupied 5 to 6 flights of stairs. Looked extremely disgusting and terrifying. What is that? So disgusting. By God. How did this meatball jump up from the bottom of the stairs? Meatball? Shangguan Liuli's eyes widened in fear. She shivered and slowly turned her head. Behind her, there was a flight of stairs that was only a step away from her. It really was a ball of bubbling meat. Her eyes were filled with terror and she was about to break into a run. An eye suddenly appeared on the fleshy meatball. Those eyes were the size of Shangguan Liuli. Ah, the monster. Monster. Shangguan Liuli's legs went soft and she immediately turned around and ran back. However, there was no room for her to lift her leg. His eyes darted around for a moment. Soon after, the meatball moved and stuck itself to Shangguan Liuli's body. Ah, it's disgusting. Scram. Shangguan Liuli struggled to break free from that meatball. But the meatball seemed to be stuck to her body. When she pushed it away, a thin layer of meat membrane appeared in the middle, and immediately adhered tightly to Shangguan Liuli's body. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.